listening to this voice, you were tuned in to the best kept secret in sports talk. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoke, and you are officially on the hot seat. What we do on the hot seat? Say it with me. We set somebody's ass on fire. We're going to talk about Florida State that just played Georgia Tech at home, so we're going to go ahead and get off into that, man. So, man, without any further ado, paying homage to the goats over my left and my right shoulder, you come for the gospel. And God damn it, I'm going to give it to you. Ding, ding, classes in session. So this past Saturday, Florida State played Georgia Tech at home. I believe they won 41-16. I think that's what it was. It's a lot to unpack about that game, depending on what side of the fence you're on. Before I go any further, let me say this. Something you guys might not know about me is I'm a numbers guy. Love numbers, love statistics, love breaking down the analytical things. I actually get paid. I actually do it for a living. One thing about numbers, they don't lie to you, all right? The numbers don't lie. But what I found out about numbers over a period of time is they don't always tell the truth. So when you look at Florida State's statistical dominance over Georgia Tech Saturday, I think it was, 642 yards of offense. You're talking about 246 yards rushing people. When you look at those numbers and you look at the score, you think, shit, Florida State destroyed them from start to finish, from one buzzer to the other. And they didn't. That bothers me. It's starting to become a theme of things I'm bothered about, but at least they won this week, so definitely happy about that. They improved to 5-3, which is the most important statistic of them all, which is the win-loss column, the record. But some people are frustrated about this game, and I think you have a right to be frustrated about it. Some people are frustrated about it, and I understand why. If you watch the game, I get it. 41 points is impressive if you saw the game. I'm sorry if you didn't see the game. 41 points isn't impressive if you saw the game, and I think that's what some people's biggest issue is. It's not just the score, but Florida State scored 41 points. If you watch the game, they could have scored at least 56. And you want to know what the issue with not scoring 50 is in this type of game? To me, it's just me. If you score 50 plus, 56 points is what, 8 touchdowns? That's a lot of goddamn touchdowns. But that's just how outmatched and that's just how much more talented Florida State is playing a team that can't score the football. That's just how many opportunities I expect you to have offensively in terms of possessions to score the football, right? If you score 56 points, that lets me know that you're clicking on all cylinders. If you score 56 points against a lesser opponent, that means when you play an opponent, that means when you play an opponent that is as talented or as good, that means I can trust you to do the things that are going to put points on the board against those people, right? So if I can't trust you to score the maximum amount of points that you probably should have against a lesser opponent, how can I trust you to score enough points moving forward against opponents that have as much talented or are as good or are probably as well coached as this team is, or not coached, depending on who you ask? That's the issue with all of this. Florida State left a lot on the field on both sides of the football. And as much as I want to be comfortable with this game, I can't. Listen, if being average and waddling in mediocrity is what if that's what you want to hear, don't come here. Don't click on this goddamn station. Don't click don't click to play these goddamn videos. That's not what I'm going to give you. I'm going to tell you the goddamn truth. And my truth comes from a vantage point of being birthed from a program that was dominant. I will not water down my expectations because of what happens to be a present moment. Now, I understand what we're dealing with. So my expectation right now is for Florida State to win 11 games a season and compete for national titles. We're not there yet. But I expect for us to be on the road there. The road shouldn't be as long and it shouldn't be as strenuous. The ACC is weak this year. To me, the ACC is very weak this year. And I don't think Florida State is taking full advantage of it being weak. That's probably my number one problem. When there's an opportunity to grab things by the goddamn neck and strangle the shit out of it, Florida State doesn't. I think right now in this juncture of the rebuild, or what y'all call it, season 3 in the fourth phase process, that's, to me, it's paramount that you do these types of things when you have the availability to do so. Florida State isn't doing that, and I think this game was a pure example of it. The game showed you people. Florida State could probably have the best offense in this fucking league. No lie. When you look at the top offenses in the conference, you look at the Wake Forests, you look at the North Carolinas, you look at the Clemsons. I don't see how Florida State could not be not as good as, but better than all of them. Think about putting up 200, and Georgia Tech has a decent defense. You talk about putting up 246 yards on the ground with not having your best runner. That's impressive. Jordan Travis had almost 400 passing yards, people. 400. And that's with dropped passes. Like, think of what this team could be if they put it all together. How many teams can say that they have the drop passes Florida State does, and they have the offensive line play, which is shoddy at times, and they're missing their best running back, and still put up these types of numbers? If they put it all together, you're talking about a juggernaut. You're talking about an unstoppable force. And it pains you to watch this team come up short week after week after week. It pains me to watch this team not reach its potential, knowing what they could be. That's why this game is so frustrating for a lot of fans, is because we know what you can do. We know that if Florida State puts it all together and they click on all cylinders offensively, they cannot be stopped. They will roll over whomever you put in front of them. The best defense in the league, one of the best defenses in the country, was Clemson. They ran the ball, I don't want to say mercifully, but they ran the ball way better than anybody could have projected, anybody could have suspected. You see what I'm saying? When you don't do these things and you don't live up to that type of expectation, people are left with this shoulder shrug. People don't know what to take or how to feel about it. Because who's going to apologize for a victory, right? They won, and they won handedly. But people, if we're being honest, at no point in this game should Florida State have trailed, even though it was just 3-0, even though it was just for a short period of time. At no point should Florida State have trailed in this game. And I'm not expecting perfection. I think I have to come in front of y'all and preface my statements every week, because I expect incompletions. I expect what goes on in a football game naturally, right? You're going to miss blocking assignments. You're going to get tackles. You're going to get tackled for loss. I expect these types of things, but even when you expect those things, I still expect Florida State to be a well-oiled machine by this juncture of the season, especially after a bye week. You look at Florida State had 13 penalties. Like, you think about the last drive of the first half. Think about the fact that Florida State only had, I think, one timeout at their disposal. Think about, or go back and watch where the other two timeouts were spent. It was spent in a red zone. It was goal to go. And you spent 2 timeouts. And you didn't score. Like, when you see shit like that, and listen, I'm not even mad at the direct snap shit, right? I got no problem that people say you getting too cute. I understand it, but I'm not mad at it. But I will say this for the people who do believe it was a bad play call. I'll take you back here. So I remember this is back when, this is a basketball reference, so stay with me. The Pacers played the Bulls in the playoffs, and I think it was 98. And this time Larry Bird was the Pacers head coach. They got beat pretty handily in one of those games. It was a 7-game series. They got beat pretty handily in one of those games. And Larry Bird says in practice, for a good portion of practice, they just practiced passing the goddamn basketball. It was in order for them to understand you have to catch the ball with 2 hands and not one. He said that too many turnovers came from them just catching the ball with one hand. They were being cute. And that team was littered with veterans. Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, Chris Mullin, Sam McKee was on that team, the Davis boys, Derek McKee. There were veterans everywhere, guys who had played at least 6 or 7 years in the league. They had a portion of practice to just pass the ball and catch it with 2 hands. The point I'm trying to make is, once you get down the basics of goal line offense, once you start doing those things right, then you can get and with wildcat formation to try to run the ball, score this football. They've done it before this season, right? So it's not like it's something foreign. It's a foreign concept for Florida State to run Wildcat the first game of the season. My point is, when making that basketball reference, is get back to the basics. Let's do this well first. Let's be able to score in the red zone consistently. Let's make sure we're calling the right plays consistently. Let's make sure we have the right personnel consistently. If you're on the 2 yard line, let's make sure that we know how to just hand the ball off, whether it be an arc formation or whatever, and just get a running back to get behind some blockers and get 2 yards and score. Let's learn how to do that consistently before we start doing halfback tosses and goal line to go situations, before we start getting wildcats to running backs who don't normally catch the ball from the center. Let's do the basics first, then we can start getting cute, as everybody likes to say. Because right now, you don't have the bandwidth to do that, because there are too many other things that you basically don't do well before you want to get out here and do something. Even if you do practice it, or again, whoop-de-doo, if it's not in the game situation, the shit really doesn't matter. It doesn't count for me, because until them bullets start flying past your goddamn melon, who cares how well you perform it in practice? And I'm not saying it was a bad play. I'm telling you, let's do let's do the normal thing as well first. So you look at that whole little sequence, and when I saw it, the first thing I thought of was the Jordan Travis to Jordan Wilson issue the week before, the game prior. 7-foot wingspan. You you underthrew him twice. Underthrew him one time. I think you overthrew him another time. He's 6'7". How the fuck do you not just? You could have threw the ball underhanded in most cases. He would have come down with it, right? And I remember just being so frustrated by that sequence of plays. I understood the play calling. I liked it. We had been begging Mike Norvell to do that when you get that close to the goal line. He did it. It didn't work, and you were like, "Shit, don't y'all practice this? Like, how can you?" I was at a loss of words at how you could have executed it that badly. Well, here you are, using 2 timeouts on goal line to go after a bye week, assuming you had already practiced this shit, and you fumble. It's frustrating. It's frustrating when you see this team at times in spurts perform so well, and then they turn around and do shit like that. And sometimes simple is better. And I think Mike Norvell, I think he does enjoy the simplicity of things, or he does implement a good bit of simplistic football in his play calling, but it still makes you scratch your head. I think Mike Norvell is a really good play designer. I'm not sure if he's the best play caller. And those two things are mutually exclusive for the times in which they are. Those gentlemen who do those things well consistently, those are elite play callers. Those are elite coaches. I don't think Mike Norvell is an elite play caller. His designs and how he's able to scheme some guys open, that's impressive. How he's able to identify a weakness he'll identify a weakness in the defense, but he won't attack it as much as I think he should. Because if it's not an advantage until you decide to use it. So once you decide to use it, don't just go there to the well once or twice. You go there to that team adjust, and you keep doing the same shit. That's how I think. And just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's something I would like to see him do better and be more consistent about. Because right now, you look at the play of Jordan Travis, and for a guy who almost had 400, I mean, come on, round up, guys. He had 400 passing yards. To me, and I don't want to seem like I'm nitpicking here. It seems like he's regressed over the last month or so. I don't think this is the same guy I saw for the first month of the season. I don't think this is the same guy I saw for the first 3 to 4 weeks. I think he's done a good bit of second guessing. I don't know if he's trusting his coaching. Sometimes it seems as if he doesn't trust his receivers. And I said this, I believe, last week, or maybe the week before last. I feel bad making this type of assessment about Jordan Travis because he dealt with a lot of drops. I don't know how many drops he's had this season, but it has to be an absurd amount. And it's not like he just keys in on one guy, which I probably would be comfortable if he did, depending on who the guy was. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Jordan Wilson. But you look at, he sprays the ball around everybody. Again, this goes back to Mike Norvell being a good play designer. You look at Um, Jordan Wilson, you look at Michael Pittman, they're still getting Malik McClain involved here and there. We're starting to use Cam McDonald more and more. Like he doesn't just set on one or two guys. He gives the ball around to everybody. And Florida State can really have a defense on its heels because it's almost pick your poison. I can't stress enough that this team had almost 250 yards of run game production without their best running back, and that's with no Jordan Travis. I don't think Jordan Travis had either a run, a scramble, or a design run that whole game. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember seeing it. I haven't rewatched the game. That's impressive. And like I said at the top of the show, when you look at the numbers, man, the things this team could do offensively, you're going to hear stuff from other people. They're going to tell you to focus on this. They're going to tell you to focus on that. And they're not going to tell you that like verbally. They're going to insinuate it by focusing on this piece of it and focusing on that piece of it. I'm trying to shine a light on what Florida State could be and not what they currently are. They'll tell you what they currently are and tell you to buy into that. I'm just telling. All I'm doing is offering you an alternative way of looking at these things. Florida State could be a juggernaut offensively, but they keep shooting themselves in the foot in various ways. And like I told y'all last week, I'm not putting this solely on the coaches. I'm not putting this solely on the players. It's both of them. People, I believe, and this is just me holding out hope, but I believe at some point during the season, those two are going to marry. The offensive players and the offensive coaches are going to marry one another in the game. And it's going to be beautiful to see, people. And I'm not saying it's going to be a 60-point output. I'm saying that there's going to be a game to where I think the defense is probably going to be decent or good, and Florida State is going to answer the bell. I'm okay with the mistakes. That's part of football. It's the kind of mistakes you make is how consistently you make those mistakes. I also referenced a few weeks ago Florida State reverting back to who we were. These 30, like the penalties and the drops, I said at some point that this was going to catch up with Florida State, and over the last month it has. The penalties and the drops are going to – I don't know what's more of a drive killer, a holding play or a drop pass. I'm leaning toward the drop pass because of where your team probably could go and how that sets up the next play. Because down and distance is important, of course, but a drop pass, man, that takes the sail out of a goddamn boat automatically. And here's another opportunity. Well, I'm thinking this is going to be another week for me to blame Adam Fuller, and I can't. He didn't call a great game. The defense didn't play flawless. It played lights out the first half, I believe, but the second half they took the foot off the gas, which a team normally does when they beating the shit out of somebody. But drop passes, penalty, missed tackles. Missed tackles, drop passes, penalties. You set all that aside, and then you look at what the coaches are doing when you're talking about coordinating a game, coordinating a game plan, the strategic piece of it, the calling of plays. This team just needs to get it together. Everybody, not harping on one person or the other. Everybody. Because if, like I said, if I can't trust you to score 50 points against Georgia Tech, what can I expect you to do next week when you go, like, I'm saying this shit like going to Miami is a hard place to play. You know what's wild? As a recruit, how the fuck do you want to go play at the Hard Rock Cafe? First of all, it's the worst name for a goddamn stadium I've ever heard in my life. And secondly, my goodness, people, I would want to enjoy the college experience if I'm a college football player, regardless of what tier I am. You can't tell me you go up to Penn State and you're not impressed by a whiteout game. You can't tell me you're not. You can't tell me you don't go in Tallahassee on a Saturday night and you don't get chills when you hear the war chant being played. There are great, like Clemson with running down the hill. There are great traditions all around college football, and there are great atmospheres. How the fuck do you want to go to Miami? Like I can understand it many moons ago, but now, shit, it's just weird. But anyway, getting off track here, man. Um, I did want to comment on recruiting. Recruits saw Clemson. You saw people leave early. They saw a bad showing because, like I said, I don't think the score was indicative of how the game went at all. I also told you all, look at the BC game. BC sold out. Florida State was sold out for Boston College. I don't know why. Because you were winning. I saw that game yesterday. I'm pretty sure ESPN was pissed. Not that we should be pissed at ESPN for these trash-ass commentators and those goddamn cameramen and those trash-ass commercials, but I'm pretty sure ESPN was pissed to have the backdrop of the stadium be damn near empty. That stadium was at best 60 to 65% capacity. You want to know why? Because you back losing. Yep, that's why nobody came to that fucking game. Because you had people's attention at one point. Fans are fickle. The fuck do you think recruiting is? What do you think recruiting is? Recruits saw this shit. Recruits saw the stadium have empty. And understanding it's a business decision, but you also want to get a full scope of the college experience. I'm not telling you how heavily it weighs, but you don't want top tier recruits seeing the stadium half empty for a game in which you blew somebody out by 25, 30 points. You don't. Fans are watching. More importantly, recruits are watching. This is why you want to get your shit together. This is why you want to be consistent. This is why I harped so much on the 3-game stretch and why you wanted to come out of there 5-2. Because hell, at the very least, 6-2 looks better than 5-3. You get, at the very least, the stadium is at 85% capacity because they're still bought in. Because they don't come because now you're not meeting expectations and they're thinking, you know what, here we go again. And I'm not mad at the fan base at all. Because a lot of that fan base was birthed from the same shit I was birthed from. Dominance. They're not going to sit around and continue to root and rah-rah for a team that isn't being consistent because we've come from this. We've been spoiled on this. Bobby Bowden made sure that when he left this earth, Florida State was a college sports renowned name. It was something that held weight, and I think it still does, just not as much as it once did. That fan base remembers. The North remembers. The fan base remembers what this program used to be, and they're not going to continue to keep settling for less than what it is. So they're being fair and waiting for you to grow and progress and all this other shit, but they want to see you do it in a fair amount of time. Florida State has had a fair amount of time. These types of things are important. So when I tell you I think the team should score 50 points, I'm not nitpicking at all. I just understand what it means, or at the very least what it should mean. So let me remind you, if you score 56 here, that means I know the product you're going to put out when you go against Miami. So instead of being about Miami fucking sucks. Miami is garbage truck juice. They fucking sucked. But going down there, I'm a tad bit nervous because of the team I know is capable of going down there and beating the U off the fucking helmet. I haven't seen that team yet. If they decide to show up in the University of Coral Gables, then fine. That is the funniest fucking name. The University of Coral Gables. Man, fuck Miami. The University of Coral Gables will forever be funny to me. But anyway, if you can go down there and do that to them, like finally show up, then great. What better way to get recruits and fans and people engaged by beating the snot out of your rival? Doesn't it just make everybody feel warm and fuzzy inside? You know, I'm just saying I would like to be more confident right now than I would be where we are right now. It pretty much sums it up. Well, it's all the time I'm giving you. It's all the time I got. They want to come in here and talk long. I just really feel like I'm repeating a whole lot of shit I said last week. But I've said what I'm going to say. Hey, guys, listen. As always, I appreciate your time. I really, truly do. I cannot stress that enough. But if you will, man, hit the like button for me if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this type of content. Hit the like button for me. Hit that subscribe button for me if you already haven't. I try to be back next week. We definitely, I ain't no try. I'm coming back next week. It might be a few days late, but we definitely got to talk about the Miami game, win or lose. As always, man, get under them comments, man. Holler at me, talk to me. Let me know what y'all think. You can reach me on the Hot Seat 19 on Twitter and at the Hot Seat 19 on Instagram. Y'all be good until next time. I see y'all.